Welcome to the Secret Rugby Lives, made just for you by BrightRock, where we take the celebrities you know and love and discover that beyond who you think they are, there's actually a secret rugby story. Now this week it's someone you know and love as a comedian, an actor, one of the happiest, jolliest celebrities we have, but behind that big smiling face and those unrelenting laughs is somebody I think has got a secret rugby life. It's Jason Goliath. Both you and I are not uncomfortable in areas that provide food.
No.
And that gives us the look as somebody who might have perhaps played in the front side of a rugby scrum. But you look as though you could have pulled it off. I would have just been pulverised because it does look like a bit of menace and strength to Jason Goliath.
Yes, I played high school rugby, and as you guessed, I was number one. Tight head prop was my position, and I was quite tough and took an unnecessary love in hurting people.
How seriously did the rugby go?
I started playing rugby because A, I was big, and B, I was just in this weird space of trying to fit in. There was this integration where, you know, people of colour were coming into Model C schools at the time, and the schools that I'd been to, A, never played rugby. The household I grew up in never watched rugby. You know, my dad was a football fan, and therefore I just had no exposure. My first exposure was going to watch the 1995 Rugby World Cup, and I'll never forget, my mom worked for Mnet, and we watched it in the yard there, and it was a tent, and it was this deep feeling of hope for South Africa, because it was the first time I saw South Africans properly just getting together. You see a big Zulu man and a big Afrikaans man hugging and kissing, you know that things are on the up and up, and that is the first time I'd experienced that. It was the year after that I'd you know, had enough interest to start playing, but it was only because the coach came to my class, picked on a guy that looked strong and fast and said, listen, I want you to come to practice. And I said, Coach, can I come to practice? And I had braces and specs, so I may have been a big guy, but I didn't look like I was the full contact type of person. And I said, Coach, can I come? And he said, Goliath, you do sport. And I said, Coach, I want to try. Because I wanted to fit in. I just felt like I didn't have a group or belong. And immediately fell in love with rugby. I had this unnecessary speed, which I'd never learned, and therefore I was an unbelievable prop. In my first year of rugby, get to go to Gauteng trials at the time, and I'll never forget, my coach was like, this is a big deal. We can only take 3 people from the entire school, and because I was the biggest, I was at the time bigger and stronger than the first team prop, because I just, you know, started bodybuilding at the same time. I know you can't see that now, but I did, trust me. And we go to trials, and this was where it all fell apart for me. It didn't matter how good you were, but what mattered was which high school you were coming from, and somewhat who your dad was. And my dad was an alcoholic mechanic that had no influence, and my coach was from a school in the West Rand, which is where I went to high school, Florida Park High, and nobody watched us. It was this unbelievable, heartbreaking moment where I realized it doesn't matter how good I am, how much effort I put in, unless I have a way to kind of get in. And this was, I suppose, you know, a sign of the 90s, where it was far more connection call and far less grassroots and true development into that level of sport. The devastation for me as I look back, and the big regret, is I got so angry that I stopped playing, because I was like, why am I doing this? I might as well do something else. And with that, feel like I robbed myself of the greatest experience, because I don't own a first team jersey, and I would have been the guy. I mean, to give you an idea of who I was, I played Standard 8, Standard 9. Standard 9, I was doing 500 kilograms on a 45-degree leg press. I could move the scrum machine by myself, and we had the best scrum machine in the country at the time. The British and Irish Lions came. They came to take our scrum machine for their training, because it was the same one they trained with, and I was the only prop that could move it. So did I shoot myself in the foot to prove this point that was never proved? Yes, I did. Was rugby the best thing that happened to me at high school? Absolutely. Was that a lot of English? Yes.
Did it end the love of rugby as a whole, though? Do you still watch the game? Is there still a passion for it?
So there's definitely a passion, but I watch it with slight heartbreak, because rugby was the only sport I ever played that made me feel like I could have a future. And when I watch the guys play now, I have more thought of what if, then I am able to allow myself to fully just immerse myself in enjoying the game. Because what if Jason Kolisi, imagine the first cappuccino captain of the Springboks. You know, so I'm one of those guys that still has my old rugby boots in a bag because I could get called up. You know what I mean? It could still happen. You never know.
I know there are a number of the current players, they're not just friends of yours, but big fans as well. As we look ahead, there's some rather important rugby being played this year. Who are the poster boys for Jason Goliath, both the ones who were and the ones who are?
The captain of the Springboks knows me on a first-name basis, and I too have been praying that he's, you know, he's come back from injury. He's gonna be swift. I play PlayStation with Courtnall Skosan, who is now back in South Africa, and you never know. But my funniest story is probably 6 months ago, Skara gave me a video call. And you know, your phone rings different. When a Springbok phones you, it's like when the president is phoning. Even if your phone is on silent, it rings. You know what I mean? So I see, Skara phoning me. I answer the video call. Skara's in King Williamstown in the Eastern Cape for some reason. And he says, hey, Goliath, I'm just warning you that you're going to be in trouble tomorrow in King Williamstown. I'm like, what do you mean? And he tilts the camera, and the guy he's with is like my doppelganger. So he says, we went out last night, and I told my brother, you just be Jason Goliath, and I'm going to be Skara, and we're going to take over this town. So for Skara, it's a funny moment. For me, it's the greatest video call I've ever had in my life. It's the only video call where I took screen grabs and sent it to my friends to go, guys, I know you think you're somebody in this earth, but if Skara doesn't video call you, then I don't even think we're the same. So I'm gonna leave it at that. And that because I don't want to upset any of my friends, I'm not gonna mention people that they might not agree with.
Well, I assure you, this is the real Jason Goliath. And not only is he a wonderful comedian, actor, and South African celebrity, he's also, as you can see, a great rugby player. But who knows what might have been if he'd carried on. The secret rugby life of Jason Goliath might not have been quite so secret. Thanks for joining us on our Secret Rugby Lives, made just for you by BrightRock. See you next time. Goodbye.